Of the dozen or so female genital piercings, the Christina piercing is easily the second most popular piercing that we perform here at Piercing Vegas. The Christina piercing is an anatomy-dependent piercing. That means not everyone can get it. You have to have the right fold in order to support the jewelry. Now, this piercing is basically done at the uppermost point where the outer labias come together and meets the pubic mound. So this piercing is extremely anatomy dependent, and everyone's anatomy has a different shape. So the look will depend on the type of jewelry that you're using. There's typically 3 different bars that we're going to use for this piercing. One is going to be a surface bar, the second would be a curved barbell, and the third would be a J-bar. So all 3 of these could be options, but typically we're going to pick the one that's going to work best for you. Now, if there's more of a fold and a ridge where the piercing is going to look a little deeper, you're going to want to use that J-bar to actually pop that bead or that gem out a little bit so it's a little bit more visible. Now, if you have a little bit of a mound there and there's enough of a ridge like a belly button or so, you're going to be able to use a curved barbell. This is my favorite style of jewelry that I use the most often. And then, of course, if it's really flat and there's not much of a ridge, you're going to want to use a surface bar similar to this. Now, keep in mind that if you're using a surface bar, the gems are going to face directly out, and then if you're using a curved barbell, the gems kind of point in different directions. Now, sometimes you're going to be able to get away with like a normal navel curve if it has a smaller gem where it has the forward-facing gem on the bottom, similar to this. Those look really amazing in there if you can find the appropriate size for you. And typically when we do this piercing, we might give you a little extra room for any swelling because this one typically does swell. So if you have extra bar when you're all healed up, you're probably going to want to downsize. The biggest issue with this piercing is there's a little bit more tissue to heal, so it does take a little bit longer to heal, so therefore you are prone to more problems. Now, what I mean by this is you're going to need to abstain from any sexual activity and anything that's going to hurt or feel rough on that area. If there's movement in that area, crusties are getting pulled through, you're doing damage and you're prolonging the healing process and possibly causing those irritation or piercing bumps to actually happen. So you got to be careful with that. Now, also, you're walking and there's some movement in this area. You have to check your beads every day. A lot of people lose beads in genital piercings, so check your beads after you wash your hands. Super, super important. And then other than that, the piercings can reject out. That would be my only other concern. If there's not a lot of ridge, if it wasn't pierced properly or deep enough, or with the improper jewelry, this could cause a rejection to happen. So if it seems like the tissue in the middle is getting less and less and less, or the bar seems to be getting longer, it's probably rejecting. You should talk to your piercer and see if it should be taken out. Possibly a lot of times if you take it out, it can be redone, but if they reject all the way out, it makes it really, really difficult to do. So keep your eye on this piercing, make sure it heals up properly. When we're talking about the length of the healing time, it depends on your anatomy, how much tissue was pierced, and what style of jewelry you're wearing in there. I'm going to say a minimum of probably 3 to 4 months, but could be all the way up to 6 to 9 months. Of the female genital piercings, this one seems to go through a little more tissue than normal. Where do you suppose it's going to lie up there? Let's check it out. Not too bad. I would expect it a lot higher, being that there's more tissue, but at the same time, there's not a lot of nerves like some of the other piercings. So it's a little bit painful, but not too bad. Totally worth getting. Don't let pain be a factor on this one. The Christina piercing is a great piercing. Now, the biggest negative I'm going to say about this is that it does take a long time to heal up, and that if you didn't have the proper anatomy for the style or look you're going for, it wouldn't be the appropriate piercing for you. Now, other than that, it's a great piercing, not too painful, tons of cool jewelry options. Of course, I approve. Now, if you learned anything today, make sure to give me a like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and of course, keep putting holes in your body. We'll see you all in the next video.